Imagine walking up to an assistant, right? And you just slam a 1,500-page legal contract onto their desk.
Oh, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, but wait, then you drop a massive software code base right next to it. And just for fun, the entirety of War and Peace.
Right. Just light reading.
Exactly. And then you demand that they cross-reference all of it in a single breath without, losing the plot.
Which is impossible.
I mean, yesterday,
Yeah.
trying to force an AI to do that would instantly crash your workflow. But today, a new model does it effortlessly, and it's offering that capability entirely for free. So, welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
It is the perfect visual for the sheer scale of the data we're dealing with today. Like, for this deep dive, I've actually set my digital backdrop to a massive sprawling library.
Oh, I see it, yeah.
Yeah, think of, like, endless ancient archives, but the books are seamlessly morphing into glowing lines of code, just pouring down like a waterfall.
It totally fits the source material because today is April 1st, 2026, and we are looking at freshly translated tech notes, community benchmark reports, and early architectural reviews for Alibaba Cloud's brand new release from late March.
Right, the Qwen 3.6 Plus preview.
Exactly. And our mission today is to figure out how this newly released Chinese AI model is delivering these premium, mind-bending capabilities for free. We're going to unpack if this is genuinely the new king of AI agents for developers,
Or if there's a hidden catch.
right, a catch that could compromise the work you do every day.
Which is exactly the right lens to view this through. Because on paper, the specifications demand a fundamental rethinking of what we consider a standard workflow.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we need to talk about the raw numbers first, just to ground ourselves.
The numbers are wild.
They really are.
Right.
So Qwen 3.6 Plus preview boasts a 1 million token context window.
Which is huge.
Right. And for you listening, a million tokens translates to roughly 2,000 pages of text that the model can hold in its active memory at one time.
Yeah, and it doesn't just read that much data. It can generate a massive maximum output of up to 65,536 tokens per single response.
Which is just staggering.
It is. And what's fascinating here is the practical application of that memory. When we talk about a million tokens, it's not just about, giving it a long book to read.
Right.
It's the foundational requirement for what the industry calls agentic workflows.
Okay, break that down for us. Like, what does an agentic workflow actually look like for someone sitting at their computer right now?
So think about the difference between a search engine and an actual employee.
Mm-hmm.
Most people still use AI like a search engine, right?
Right, like asking a trivia question and getting a paragraph back.
Exactly. But an autonomous agent operates independently to achieve a complex multi-step goal. Let's say you want an agent to act as a senior software engineer.
Okay.
You don't just ask it to write a simple script. You ask it to review thousands of lines of your existing code, cross-reference it with a library of new documentation, find the security vulnerabilities, and rewrite the broken modules.
And in older models, that is exactly where the system breaks down.
Completely.
Like, the AI would literally suffer from amnesia. You'd ask it to do a 10-step process, and by, step 7...
It's completely forgotten the initial parameters of the prompt.
Yes. And it starts hallucinating functions that don't even exist.
Yeah, and that amnesia happens because the AI runs out of token memory. It has to push the old instructions out of its brain to make room for the new text it's generating.
Right, it's like a goldfish.
Exactly. But with the 1 million token context window, that cognitive ceiling just disappears. The agent can retain your core instructions, the entire history of the complex task it just performed, and all of the source material simultaneously.
And since it can generate 65,000 tokens in a single output, it isn't just returning a polite summary of the bugs it found.
No, not at all.
It can output the entire fully corrected software module in one go.
Yeah, the ability to ingest that much context and output a massive finished product, it fundamentally changes how developers build software.
Yeah. Honestly, what stands out to me even more than the raw specs is the timeline.
Oh, the speed of it.
Right. We are sitting here in April 2026, and looking at the evolutionary blueprint of this model is like watching a time-lapse video of engineering that's been hyper-compressed into just months.
The acceleration is deeply strategic. Let me just note down a key point from the architectural reviews here because it's important.
For it.
The Qwen team didn't just brute force their way to 1 million tokens by throwing more massive server farms at the problem. They meticulously refined the underlying mechanism of how the model learns and processes information.
Let's trace that trajectory because it explains so much about this new release. Just a year ago, in April 2025, they released Qwen 3.
Right.
And the sources show that model used about 36 billion tokens in pre-training, which was double the diet of their previous model. But it wasn't just, random internet data.
No, they started with basic foundational knowledge and then heavily used synthetic data, specifically engineered for STEM and coding.
Which is a huge distinction.
It really is. That decision to use synthetic data is crucial. Instead of just scraping the messy, contradictory, and honestly often inaccurate open internet.
Which we all know is full of garbage.
Exactly. They used advanced AI to generate textbook-perfect, highly structured examples of complex math and coding problems.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of feeding a medical student a curated masterclass curriculum instead of just dropping them into a public library and telling them to figure out human anatomy on their own.
Which totally explains the results they got. By feeding the AI that high-quality synthetic diet, their smaller 32 billion parameter models were actually able to beat older 72 billion parameter models.
Right. And we should probably clarify what that means for the listener.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we say parameters, think of them as the artificial synapses in the AI's brain. It's the connections that hold its understanding of the world. Normally, a brain with 72 billion synapses should easily outsmart a brain with only 32 billion.
But Qwen 3 proved that the quality of the data matters just as much as the size of the brain. Like, a smaller, highly curated model could punch way above its weight class.
Exactly. But from there, the evolution takes a very sharp turn. With Qwen 3.5, they shifted to native multimodal agents.
Right.
They wanted the AI to process text, image, audio, and video all simultaneously. And to do that, they utilized a hybrid attention mixture of experts architecture.
The MOE approach, we see that a lot in these massive models.
Yeah, it's very popular right now.
It essentially routes the user's prompt to the specific subnetwork best suited to answer it. So if you ask a coding question, it goes to the coding expert network. If you ask it to analyze a photo, it goes to the vision expert.
The common analogy is a hospital. You don't ask the podiatrist to perform heart surgery.
Right.
So Qwen 3.5 used this architecture to separate the networks doing the heavy thinking from the networks doing the talking or seeing. It was highly sophisticated for handling those flashy, multimodal tasks.
But then, and this is the crazy part, just months later, we arrive at Qwen 3.6 Plus preview, and they execute this massive strategic whiplash.
Oh, total 180.
They drop the multimodal capabilities entirely. They pivot back to a text-only advanced hybrid architecture. And the notes specifically emphasize that this is not a standard MOE.
Right.
The entire engineering focus is stripped down to high efficiency, extremely low energy consumption during inference, and agentic reliability.
Yeah, and abandoning multimodal features so quickly seems counterintuitive until you look at the cognitive overhead required to run those features.
It's just too heavy.
Exactly. Processing sight, sound, and text simultaneously is like forcing the AI to constantly translate between 5 different languages in its head at all times. It requires an immense amount of computational power.
So by pivoting back to pure text and code, it's like the AI is finally thinking entirely in its native tongue again.
That's a great way to put it.
All of that freed up cognitive bandwidth is suddenly redirected into raw, untiring logic.
Right. The Qwen team realized that the enterprise world, the developers, the researchers, the data scientists who actually build tools,
Yeah.
they don't need the AI to look at a picture of a sunset and write a poem about it.
No, they really don't.
They need an incredibly reliable, highly efficient reasoning engine that never breaks down during a 1,000-step coding task.
Exactly.
So by stripping away the standard MOE and the multimodal overhead, they drastically reduce the energy cost to run the model.
Which changes the entire equation for how the model operates in real time. Because they freed up that computational budget, they forced the model to do something incredibly resource-intensive. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The defining feature of Qwen 3.6 is its always-on chain of thought reasoning.
And there is no toggle switch for this feature.
None. You cannot turn it off. For every single prompt you give it, it constantly thinks step by step behind the scenes before it outputs a single word to you. And yet, even with that forced internal monologue, community tests are showing it generates outputs up to 3 times faster than Claude Opus 4.6.
That is insane speed.
It is. It's rivaling, and in many benchmarks actually beating premium models like GPT-5.x, Gemini, and DeepSeek, specifically when it comes to text-heavy workflows and natively calling external tools.
Achieving that kind of generation speed while mandating a hidden reasoning process for every single query, that is a staggering engineering feat.
It is, but I do have to push back on this architecture, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
If chain of thought is always on, isn't that actually a massive flaw for everyday use?
How so?
Well, it feels like hiring a Michelin star chef who insists on meticulously prepping a five-course mise en place, chopping every herb perfectly when you just ask them to pour you a bowl of cereal.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Right. Like if I just ask the model for the capital of France, do I really want it writing an internal essay about European geography first? Doesn't that cause annoying latency for simple tasks?
Honestly, that is a highly perceptive critique.
Hmm.
And the community benchmarks absolutely validate your point. The extra latency on simple, direct answer tasks is a documented weakness of Qwen 3.6.
So it is slower for that.
Yeah. You're definitely going to wait a fraction of a second longer for that bowl of cereal.
So why force the issue? If it creates a worse user experience for basic questions, why engineer the model to do it permanently?
Because of the exact problem this model is engineered to solve, which is overthinking and hallucination in complex environments.
Okay.
When older models receive a massive multi-step prompt, they often start generating text immediately. They basically speak before they think.
Right. They just jump right in.
Exactly. And halfway through the response, they paint themselves into a logical corner. To get out of it, they either hallucinate a fake fact, generate broken code, or simply fail the task altogether.
Yeah, because they don't have a plan. They're just predicting the next most likely word and hoping it makes sense by the end of the paragraph.
Precisely. By forcing always-on chain of thought, Qwen 3.6 drafts a hidden, logical roadmap before it ever begins speaking to the user.
Ah.
It evaluates its own plan, spots potential errors, and corrects them in its hidden workspace. The result is that the final, visible output is actually more decisive, incredibly concise, and highly reliable.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for a developer trusting an agent to rewrite critical software, trading a tiny bit of latency on a simple query for bulletproof reliability on a complex one, that is a trade they will make every single day.
Right, because it's not a trivia bot, it's a dedicated reasoning engine.
Exactly.
Which naturally brings us to the biggest hook of this entire release. How you can actually use it, the price tag attached to it, and the inevitable catch.
Because the accessibility of this model is what elevates it from, a fascinating tech note to an industry-disrupting event.
For sure. As of right now, you can access Qwen 3.6 Plus Preview completely for free via the OpenRouter API. Yep. For the developers listening, the model name is exactly Qwen 3.6 Plus-preview.free, and it is fully compatible with OpenAI clients, meaning you don't have to learn a new system.
That's huge for adoption.
It is. You can plug it directly into the apps, IDEs, and interfaces you're already using. You can literally go test this in under 5 minutes. Like you can ask it to review your entire doctoral thesis today.
And the value of offering a state-of-the-art million-token reasoning engine for free simply cannot be overstated. But, and there's a big but, any developer listening needs to carefully evaluate the fine print before plugging this into their daily workflow.
Absolutely, because there are 3 distinct catches here. First, it is a preview model. That means the performance, the speed, or the availability could change without any warning from Alibaba.
Right, they could pull the plug or alter it anytime.
Exactly. Second, it is a closed model. They have not released the open weights, so you cannot download the underlying architecture and run it privately on your own local hardware.
Which leads to the third catch.
Yes, the massive, glowing neon warning sign. It collects your prompt and completion data to improve the model.
And this raises an important question regarding data privacy. I mean, the internet adage really holds true here. If the product is free, you are the product.
Or in this case, your data is the currency paying for the compute.
Precisely how it works. We talked earlier about how Qwen refined its reasoning capabilities, right?
Yeah, with the synthetic data.
Well, Alibaba is now utilizing the global developer community to perform massive-scale reinforcement learning. Every time you feed the model a complex logic puzzle, every time you correct a piece of its code or hit regenerate because it missed a step.
That interaction is recorded.
Yes. The AI learns from your corrections. Alibaba is essentially crowdsourcing the refinement of their model's logic.
Which means you absolutely do not want to feed this model your company's secret source code, sensitive user data, or proprietary corporate strategies.
No, definitely not. If you're analyzing public scientific papers, summarizing classic literature, or testing open source frameworks, that trade-off is absolutely worth it. You are getting an unmatched tool.
Right.
But for critical production environments, this free access requires strict data responsibility on the part of the user.
For sure. And, zooming out to the macro level, This data collection strategy reveals the true stakes of the global AI race.
It really does.
This release isn't just about an individual developer getting a helpful tool. It represents a massive acceleration in the tension between Chinese tech infrastructure and Western AI dominance.
The geopolitical implications of this deployment strategy are just as fascinating as the architecture itself.
Yeah, think about the API pricing mechanics that Western companies rely on. Right now, if you are a developer or a startup building an application, you pay companies like OpenAI or Anthropic per million tokens processed.
And that adds up fast.
So fast. If you're running complex agentic workflows that constantly read and write thousands of pages of text, your monthly API bill can easily hit hundreds or thousands of dollars.
And suddenly, a state-of-the-art alternative appears that offers comparable and in some cases superior reasoning capabilities with zero API cost.
It's crazy. Alibaba is putting immense pressure on Western companies to rethink their premium pricing model.
Absolutely.
Because if you're paying $20 a month for a consumer subscription or thousands for API access to a model that is slower and has a smaller memory window, you immediately start to question that value proposition.
It fundamentally challenges the dominant narrative of the last few years, which has largely been driven by a handful of Western tech giants dictating the pace of innovation and the pricing structures for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
A release like Qwen 3.6 disrupts that entirely, democratizing access at a scale we just haven't seen before.
So what does this all mean? To me, it signals that the AI race is no longer just about who has the absolute smartest, most esoteric model locked away in a research lab. It is about who can make the smartest model, the fastest, the cheapest, and most importantly, the most integrated into the average developer's daily life.
That is the new battleground.
Yeah.
But this aggressive iteration cycle brings up a secondary, deeply critical tension.
Which is?
Sustainability. Let me just change my digital backdrop here to a glowing network mapping global data centers.
Oh, that looks intense.
It is.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we discussed earlier how the Qwen team had to strip out the multimodal features to create the hyper-efficient text model, right?
Yeah, to save on compute.
Well, they were forced to do that because the energy resources required to scale AI globally are becoming dangerously unsustainable.
That's a great point. The physical power grid simply cannot handle infinite scaling. Data centers require massive, massive amounts of electricity and cooling.
Exactly. We're watching two massive forces collide right now. On one hand, you have this rapid, aggressive push to build ever larger context windows and constant reasoning loops.
Right.
And on the other hand, you have the hard physical limits of our global energy infrastructure. The real question is whether this competitive pressure will force the industry toward more open innovation like sharing architectural breakthroughs to save energy, or if it will lead to deeper geopolitical fragmentation.
Which would result in entirely siloed, redundant AI ecosystems all competing for the exact same finite power resources.
Exactly. It's a looming crisis.
It is a phenomenal question, and the answer is literally being written right now in the code of these preview models.
Yeah.
Well, let's briefly recap what we've unpacked today for you listening. We are looking at a true behemoth. A 1 million token context window capable of digesting entire libraries of data at once.
Unbelievable scale.
It features blistering generation speeds, fueled by a stripped-down, highly efficient architecture that forces always-on, step-by-step reasoning to eliminate those pesky hallucinations.
Right.
And crucially, it is available for free right now, provided you are willing to navigate the privacy caveats and the reality of data collection.
It is a remarkable piece of engineering that demands attention from anyone building in this space.
I highly encourage you to go try this model out this week, hook it up via OpenRouter, throw a massive complex document at it, and just see how it handles a multi-step instruction. We'd love to hear about the craziest tasks you tested it on and whether it actually held the plot together.
But before we sign off, there's one final thought I want to leave you with, kind of building on the architectural history we mapped out today.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
We noted that Qwen 3.6 Plus Preview is purely text-based. It was a deliberate, strategic step back from the natively multimodal Qwen 3.5 that could process video and audio.
Right, to save energy and focus on logic.
But consider what Alibaba now possesses. A hyper-efficient, million-token architecture that never stops thinking. and fundamentally forces a logical, step-by-step roadmap before taking any action.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
What happens when they inevitably combine the two?
Oh, wow.
What happens when a reasoning engine that never suffers from amnesia and always plans its next move logically is suddenly fed an endless, real-time stream of physical video and spatial audio?
Wait, really? Like
Yeah.
real-world data?
Will the chaotic, unending volume of sensory data overload its forced reasoning? Or are we currently looking at the underlying, always-on brain for the first truly autonomous, real-world physical robots?
That is an incredible thought to end on, because when you take that million-token logical brain and put it inside a machine that can actually walk around the room and see the physical world, we aren't just talking about a faster way to write code anymore.
No, we're not.
We are talking about an entirely new species of machine. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.